Everyone's familiar with World War II and the major genocide that took place. Some of us actually lived that genocide. With me today is actually a former in my classroom here in America in South Florida who lived through the genocide of Bosnia-Herzegovina, what was formerly known as parts of what was formerly known as Yugoslavia. As you know, Yugoslavia was branched off into 3 or 4 different nations, had the U.S. influence in it. Native ethnicities of Yugoslavia now refer to themselves as Serbians in a country called Serbia. It's in the Mediterranean of, I guess you could say, Eastern Europe, east of Italy, and this region went through so much war and so much ethnic cleansing that to be brought up as a child in it naturally has perhaps some effects, things that in America you wouldn't really experience on a normal daily basis. Here with me is a student, and he grew up in that time frame. He's about 19. How old are you?
21.
He's 21 now, and basically, as you know, this YouTube channel or TeacherTube channel is called Human Experiences, and this is basically his human experience during that time. I'll ask a series of questions, he'll answer them, and hopefully we'll try not to...
George actually say. I'm from Serbia and Montenegro, just like my teacher Miranda over here said, from ex-former of Yugoslavia. I was 13 years old when I came to the United States, also 8 years old when the war took place in 1999.
Okay. Now, Marco, can you describe basically, before we get into the war and your experiences, can you describe basically what city you were raised in Serbia? Well, first of all, tell me what city you were born in.
I was born in the capital city of Belgrade.
Okay. And you were raised in the capital city of Belgrade the entire time that you were in Serbia?
Yes, sir. I grew up over there. First 7 years I lived in Belgrade. Then I moved to a smaller city called New Belgrade.
Okay. And now, just to give everyone an idea of what kind of environment we're looking at, your parents were they middle class?
My parents were middle class. My dad was a police officer. My mother worked in a factory. My grandparents, they had their own little business. They used to sell vegetables and products that were mainly made in the countryside of the country I was raised
in. Okay. So you weren't in a big city, or you were in a countryside?
I was raised in a big city, but my grandparents were from the countryside.
Okay. All right. So you weren't really rich, but you guys weren't poor as well.
We had money for food and just enough to survive.
Just enough to survive?
Just enough to survive.
So tell me, like, the daily life, if you could remember. I mean, because I believe you came to America at what time?
When I was 13 years old.
13 years old.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so basically, during that time when you were growing up, what was the general daily life?
Crisis with the food, with the money, with everything, the electricity. People were just working every single day, every single night, just to make that money so they can pay for their electricity bills, water bills, buy packs in the country at that time. It was like a failure of the state when Croatia was trying to separate from Serbia, and the time when the war was happening, the civil war, and Josip Broz Tito died, and everybody was really sad, and it was just like a bunch of problems just like coming from the corner and striking everybody while nobody's looking. You know what I mean?
Economic problem.
Economic problem, civil problem, society, system, money, everything.
And this was now in 1991. I believe it was still Yugoslavia. It was still one country, but economically everyone was struggling with hard times.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this was 1991 when you were born. So the war started. You were already a child when it began.
Yes, sir.
Already born, already basically walking around talking.
Yes, sir.
You, when this war started, and when this, you were already struggling for food and water, food and electricity.
Always, always. It
Before it
was
started.
like the country that I lived in was not just a friendly country. We were struggling to survive. We were fighting for what we believed it was ours for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We didn't want to lose something that was so holy to us. Just like what I believe that Jerusalem is to Israel, that's how Kosovo was to us. So we were always fighting for that one holy country. And at the end, somebody who is just so brand new to the European Union or to Europe just came back and snatched it away from us.
And who was that snatched it away?
I really don't want to go into details with that. I really don't want to say it. But our country was in a war with the Muslims. Turks came and we were on the Turks for over 500 years. They stayed in Bosnia.
But that, okay, so the people of Bosnia were the descendants of Turks from many years ago.
Yeah.
The war started, I believe, it was 1999.
No, 1999 was when it's for the independence of Kosovo. That's when the war started.
Right.
But I'm talking about from like long time ago, in the ages of kings and tsars.
Right. Okay, so you were fighting with the people of Kosovo who are mainly of Islamic descent, Islamic religion.
The Albanians.
They were Albanian descent. Okay. Now, I mean, understand you don't have to. We're just going over we're going over the facts, historical. If you want to say Albania or the U.S. or stuff like that, it's a documentary of someone's human experience. So I mean, your subjective thoughts are okay.
I mean, what can I say? I was just a kid. It's not like I know much about it. And politics were never my main thing.
Exactly right.
So, and on the other hand, I really don't want to become a stereotypical type. You know what I mean? And then, accuse somebody that they didn't do. But I'll say as much as I know and as much as I was taught from my parents and people around us.
Okay. So basically, this is what was going on at the time. When do you remember your first bomb? When the first bomb fell? The first time that you actually felt like, wow, this is war.
Well, I remember one time it was a night, it was before the war actually was declared. I remember on the news watching the map where the troops were moving from. First, I really didn't believe that something like that was going to happen. I was scared. I was a kid. I was just a kid. I was crying to my grandparents. They said, everything is going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Everything is going to be fine. It's just some misunderstanding. Nothing's going to happen. They're all going to agree to each other and, they're going to squash it and everything is going to be fine. We're just going to continue with our regular lives. I don't remember what period of time passed, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. Let's just say a month. It was a practice for the siren.
A practice.
Practice. I mean, why do we need to have a practice if they already said, nothing's going to be happening? But on the other hand, they're having maps showing how the troops are moving from where to where and what's actually going on. I remember my first time when the siren went off, I was in school, and the teacher said everybody needs to duck down on the table. The siren sounded something like, and he kept on going and going for a couple of minutes till it stopped. That means that everybody has to go in the bunkers, basements, atomic fields, which is like these hills raised from the floor. They were maybe about 3 stories high. They were so deep down into the ground. They had a big metal door that was consisted of a couple of chains from the outside and on the inside of where we're hiding. It was more like a